What's up, guys? Bluntcuts here. I am doing a Watch Over Realms video for you today, and today we're going to be tackling Gear Raid 321, but with a twist. We're going to be doing it without Dolores. This is something that I was always curious about whether or not I'd be able to do it. If you watch some of my earlier videos, you'll see me talking and kind of bemoaning the fact that I don't have Dolores. It took me 2,600 summons to get her. It was a huge progression handicap on my account, and I was still able to do most of the things that I wanted to do in this game, but I wasn't able to clear 121 and 321 in the gear raids. And Dolores is a key piece in almost every single team. Any video that you go pull up, you're going to see her in it for the most part. I don't know if other folks have done this. I'm sure that there's other accounts and other players that could get this done. By no means am I trying to say that this is some massive achievement, but I do think that it is something that is pretty relevant for those of you that have had similarly bad luck to me. So if you are 2,000 summons without Dolores, if you are, hell, I saw somebody posting the other day saying they were over 3,000 summons without Dolores, and she is such an integral piece of the end game that it's crazy how much harder everything is without her. The gear requirements go up significantly. Mainly, you need to kind of reconfigure the way that you gear your champions. If you're going to be tackling higher end content, which means higher magic resist, higher defense, then you almost definitely need to gear in triple attack percent pieces on the right hand side, because you need to bump up that attack as much as possible. And so it really limits your gearing options too. It really just shifts the way that you have to play the game. So I did pull Dolores at, like I said, at 2,600 summons. It was back on December 29th. Within an hour, I had cleared Gear Raid 321 and Gear Raid 121, so she was clearly the missing piece. But I'm coming back to this now with the goal of being able to clear it without Dolores. And I'm happy to say that with some testing, I was able to do it. It's not easy, and there is certainly a lot less room for error when you don't have her. She is a bit of a crutch in my mind. I think that as much as it was hard for me not to get her early on, I do think it helped me overall, because I had to kind of min-max a lot of strategies that I wouldn't necessarily have had to otherwise if I did have her. There are things like killing Lasir on Nightmare that is Nightmare Void Rift that is just really, really difficult without a Dolores, because all the strategies for killing that boss surround killing him quickly and then dealing with everything else in the stage afterwards. So it's so hard to do if you don't have that extra. I think it's with 60%, I think, inspiration on Dolores when she's awakened. So you're talking about, my Dolores has like 13k attack power, so that's, I don't know, like 7,000 or 8,000 or something like that extra attack that you're sharing with all of your allies. It is gigantic, and I hope this helps somebody. I hope there's somebody who's been super unlucky that sees this and is able to advance in the game because of it. If not, then it's just a fun exercise either way. So before we get into it, I am going to talk a little bit about the different roles that are being played on this team. So we've got Silas and Setram are going to be our main DPS in the center. They're going to take down the boss and all of those exploding mobs that are in the middle, as well as the initial 4 enemies that are just waiting for you when you start the map. Hatsa is going to be taking the right side. She is, in my opinion, is the best one to do it. You could also potentially use Alora on the right side. Probably Alora in conjunction with Idril, who with Power of Dominance is able to basically clear the entire map, but we're not going to be using Power of Dominance here. I want this to be theoretically a progression video that somebody could use as a model if they do have all these champions. They do have an advanced account, but they've just been really unlucky and not pulled Dolores. Maul, unfortunately, I don't have a better AoE marksman, but maybe it's actually better for this video, because I have not been lucky enough to pull either Nyx or Razak or Kai or Pelagios. That would be kind of the ultimate there, but I don't have any of those. So I have been using Maul on the left-hand side, and it's a little tighter than I think it would be with some of those other champions that I just mentioned, but he is able to get it done. So without further ado, let's get into it. All right, guys, so the first thing I'm going to do is put this on 1x speed. Reason being that I am kind of slow on the PC. I'm used to using my phone. That's where all my muscle memory is. So aside from that, my first deployment is Setram on the left-hand side of the middle platform. I drop him first because it takes a little bit longer for his ultimate to charge up than for Silas's, and we need to get that damage out as quickly as possible to kill these 4 enemies in the center. The reason being that if they reach us, they are going to one-shot the DPS. So I'm going to pop these ultimates as soon as they come up. And then the next thing I'm going to do, actually, before I pop Silas's ult, is put Hatsoot on the right side. Hatsoot's talent gives her invisibility for 40 seconds when fully skilled up, so I don't have to worry about being attacked by that enemy. And as soon as that enemy dies, which should happen in one Hatsoot ultimate, I'm going to despawn her. And then I'm going to put Eloin in the center to give some extra heals to Silas and to Setram. You can see it's good timing on my part. I got some extra damage in on the boss. Ideally, it would be great if you could kill the boss in 2 rounds of Silas and Setram ultimates. However, I find that it often takes a 3rd one. But the quicker you can kill the boss, the better, because that's going to stop these exploding enemies from popping up. And it's been my experience that that is the biggest RNG in this fight. If you have bad luck or bad timing on those explosive enemies, then they are going to kill your DPS and end your run. So to that point, the best thing you can do in all of this is to cycle through your ultimates as quickly as possible so that you can ensure that those enemies, and primarily those exploding enemies in the front, are going to be dying as quickly as possible. So Hatsoot's respawn timer is up, so I'm going to drop her on the right-hand side. I'm going to once again kill this enemy here. The other thing that I'm going to be able to do is, after this dies, I'm going to have enough time for Hatsoot's ultimate to recharge so that I can actually kill these enemies up here in an ultimate as well once they start to move. So as I was saying before, so it's going to be 3 rounds of ultimates for me on this run. I did have 1 or 2 runs where I was able to get it in less, but it seems like there's some RNG there, and maybe I just did it worse this time than I've done it in the past. I am going to pop Hatsoot's ultimate, and hopefully these are going to die. And once again, we're going to despawn her. Everybody's alive, so that is a good sign already. I don't really need to do this, but I'm going to pop Setram's ultimate here just to get that down. And so now the boss is down. It's a little easier going forward. I am going to drop Idril here and face her right. So just in case anything does slip past Hatsoot, she's kind of my safety blanket. She's going to be able to sit there and hopefully get a shot or 2 off at anybody who does come up. The other thing, too, is that because, as you can see, Hatsoot still has about 30 seconds left on her ultimate, or not her ultimate, on her redeploy time. So I'm not going to be able to get Hatsoot out fast enough again to kill that enemy. So Idril is gonna kill the side there for me, and she's also going to be able to contribute to killing the AoE pack on the left-hand side as well. It's not really hugely important in this I guess iteration of the run, but it is something that that is super helpful to just have a little bit more DPS on those enemies. The other thing that you can do as well, Setram has an expanded range when you use his ultimate, and as you can see, these 2 or 3 enemies that are up in the upper left-hand corner, when they come down, I'm actually going to be able to target them with Setram in case they do come down any further, and that is key. So I'm going to drop Hatsoot over here. Hopefully I'm not too late. We're going to get a little bit of damage, and we're going to put decreased defense with Hatsoot on all of these enemies. As soon as they're on top of me, I am going to, there we go, pop the ultimate, and hopefully they all die. And they do. That is wonderful. I'm going to pop Setram's ultimate just in case here, and that should be the run. And there we go. There we have it, guys. So no Dolores. I did have to use some overpowered champions. There's no question that Hatsoot and Silas are just, they're phenomenal. They are, you know, S+ tier champions in my mind. They are kind of like the top of the food chain, with the exception, I don't know, maybe you might want to throw in some lords in there that might be above them, maybe some of the chaos or Arbiter champions, they might be above them, but you know, that is the run, and that was done without Power of Dominance, without Dolores, and hopefully it kind of informs your thought process as you're trying to figure this out. This is by no means the only way to clear this stage. You do not need to have this exact comp. I think I said originally, I don't think you can replace Silas because there's not a better boss killer in the game than Silas. He enables this. If I wasn't able to kill the boss as quickly as I did, then I wouldn't be able to do this without Dolores, I don't think. Or maybe I should say, if I had Dolores, I would be able to kill the boss faster. You know, chicken or the egg argument, but either way, getting the boss down quickly makes this stage much, much easier, and for me was the limiting factor for a really long time. So pulling Silas certainly helped me to push forward in this. So he's super important. I think you could probably use somebody in place of Setram. You might be able to use, say, like an Arrogance or Zillitu or something like that, but I think that is going to cause problems with the exploding mobs. I haven't tried it. You could certainly iterate on that. Idril, anybody at this stage in the game likely has Idril, but if you don't, you could always use another AoE marksman on the right-hand side, and or potentially play with your Hatset deployment. Maybe you bring in Allura or something like that for the previous wave so that you have Hatset up to kill the enemy that has the kind of like ground AoE effect on the right-hand side in the bottom right-hand portal. Other than that, I mean, I think if you don't have Elowen, you could always use Hollow for that added rage regen. You know, it's not lost on me that Elowen's rage regen does certainly help out here. It helps you get back to the ultimates for Setram and for Silas faster, and I'm sure it's also helping me get back to Hatset's ult when those timings are so quick. So that may be a limiting factor. I haven't done it without Elowen. There's only so many champions that I can subtract from you know, my actual team to make this work, but hopefully it gives you some ideas. Let's get back into it. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. Let's go back to the battle screen, and I can take a look at the gearing on the champions and just kind of tell you what my thought process was as I was putting this team together. Primarily, this is just the gear that I have on them for the most part, but there were a couple of minor tweaks that I do think are worth, you know, calling attention to. So Silas is without an artifact apparently. So you know, typically I've got a level 25 Soul Siphon on him, so he's getting 30% extra damage. He did not have that, so whoops. But you can see he does have good gear on. He's got about 350% crit damage. His attack power is just a tick underneath 12,000. I'm not all that worried about attack power on him because he ignores defense completely, so crit damage typically outscales that during his ultimate anyway. He's going to be diminished outside of it, but we're not really all that concerned about what he's doing outside of the ultimate, so that was my thought process here. He does have a healthy amount of speed at just under 400 attack speed. That is, I think you could probably go up and down with that, but I think you should be shooting for between 300 and 350 attack speed at minimum in order to make this work, just so that he gets back around to his ultimate as quickly as possible. I'd say the attack speed requirement is probably higher if you aren't bringing an Elowen in and you don't have that rage regen. You could also potentially bring in a Laurel in order to increase his rage regen that way. That would be another way to kind of you know, skin the cat. So definitely something to consider with Silas. As far as Idril's concerned, she's also in Infernal Roar, which is going to be the best set for her. I didn't really look too deeply into this gear, if I'm being completely honest with you. I just pulled what I use on my Deimos in Guild Boss and put it on her. But you can see, again, healthy attack speed. I typically shoot for 350 minimum on all of my my damage dealers. Once you start scaling past that point, you get diminishing returns on the attack speed, but it is very helpful up to, say, 350 to 400 speed is really what you should be shooting for. Crit damage is important here, but it's not as important as the attack. You should kind of note that epic champions in general, but marksmen in particular, they have significantly lower base attack than their legendary counterparts. And so for Idril, and as you're going to see on Maul, I want to make sure that I've got a certain amount, a decent amount of attack on them to kind of compensate for that. And that means that maybe instead of doing, you could do triple attack percent on the right-hand side. I've actually got 1 attack percent, and I think and I've got two attack percent, one crit rate, because this is kind of my worst set of Infernal Roar gear. And then I do have attack speed and good stats on the left side pieces, but these are none of these stats are like mind-blowing. They're good and they're end game, but they are not crazy. And as I said originally, this is all gear that I primarily farmed in 319 before I actually cleared 320 and 321. So for what it's worth, it may take some time. It may take some energy. You might have to spend your gems on farming, but you can get gear like this. It is just a time investment, time and stamina investment. So, you got to prioritize. I think a lot of folks are more inclined to spend their gems on summons, and I love that about this game, that you can just directly spend gems on summons, that you can get gems back when you destroy your rares, and there's so many really versatile things that you can do with gems in this game. But I think a lot of people have forgotten about the fact that 60 gems equals 200 stamina, and it makes a gigantic difference if you just say, for a couple weeks, you decide, I'm not going to spend any of my gems on champions. I am only going to spend it on stamina. You will be shocked at how much farming you can get done in those 2 weeks. And at the end of the day, you're probably only missing out on like maybe 1 or 2 legendaries for that gem investment. So, I mean, that's my personal opinion. I know that there are other folks that say that that's not the case, that ultimately you are going to need to awaken these champions anyway, so you may as well put all of your resources into acquiring more champions. I think that's probably true at a certain point. I think I may be getting to close to that point right now, where I want to circle back and start putting my gems back into champions. But I do think that there's a baseline of farming that you should really go through in order to gear your champions. Anyway, I have gotten way off topic here, so let's get back here. So Maul, again, like with Idril, I wanted to make sure that he was in he had decent attack here. So he's got a little over 11k attack. He does have a very low base attack at 3,053. I tried this. I had him in a fracture set originally, and I was able to get it done, but I was having a lot of trouble on the left-hand side. So I decided to switch him into the gear that I use on Valeria and Guild Boss. So I put him in Soulbound Arcana. That seemed to give him enough of a boost by the time that that final AoE pack was up, that he was able to clear it without having as much difficulty. So Soulbound Arcana would be a great choice here. I think that if you have really good stats, that you might need to do a few runs to get the timings right, but you could probably get it down without that. And in fact, I should say, not probably, you can do it without that. I have done it with him in a fracture set in the past. I just got a little tired of doing the run over and over again while I was trying to film it, and there's only so many times that I can kind of dictate what I'm doing in there without starting to feel really frustrated. So I did kind of cop out a little bit here, and I put on that Soulbound Arcana, but it's not something that you can't farm. So I do think that this is probably, in this situation, is probably going to be his best set, because the later wave does take it more damage to kill than the earlier one. So having that time to build up those ults and up that damage stack is going to ultimately help you out and help you clear that left-hand side. Vortex, I don't even know what gear I have on her. She's missing a chest. The healers don't really matter here, if I'm being completely honest with you. They're going to do enough, even poorly geared like this, where, I mean, it's not poor, just under 400 attack speed, enough health to survive, but not really, only 35k health on an HP-based healer is not a whole lot. So I wouldn't be overly concerned with that. Twin Food we didn't use, Zilla 2 we didn't use. Cetrum this is basically my Guild Boss gear. The one difference being that I popped this attack bonus ring on. I typically have a crit damage ring in here instead. But you take a look at his stats. He's got about 17k attack. Where is the attack speed? 338 attack speed. So again, close to that 350 target that I was talking about. and crit rate at 76%. He should actually be at 78%. Because he has a talent where if he attacks the same enemy over and over again, he gains crit rate up to a certain stack. And so when you have him fully skilled, that caps out at 22% crit rate. I decided that 98% crit rate was fine for the purposes of this test, but ideally he would have 78%. If you don't have a fully skilled Setrum, you'll need to figure out how many skill ups you have in there and how many stacks you can accumulate to see what your minimum crit rate should be. But this is also something that you can carry over to your gearing for Guild Boss if you aren't doing it this way. He is somebody that you can stack more crit damage and more attack on him instead of crit rate, and it does give him more kind of flexibility in your gearing. So that's important. 342% crit damage is pretty high, especially considering that the attack is where it is. So that's important to note too. And I think the last one, is just Hot Soot. We can look at Elwyn too, but that gear is nothing special. So Hot Soot is in Soulbound Arcana. Actually not ideal in this situation. Based on my testing, Soulbound Arcana stacks reset when you despawn the champion. So she wasn't gaining anything out of this. So you could put mismatched gear on. If you can get stats similar to this, you should be fine. Attack is actually a little low. At 12K. I'd like to have that actually above 13K, preferably around 14K typically. I didn't notice that before I started this. The attack speed is super high on this gear set. Not necessary. You can. I have done this down around 300 speed with her. I do think that you want over 300% crit damage, and you do want her to be crit capped. But otherwise, she should do some work for you if you do have her. Best champion in the game, in my opinion. Elwyn, finally. Let's see. She's got an Invigoration set. She's got a bunch of attack speed. I did pop a HP bonus amulet on her because when I first started doing this, she was dying to the exploding mobs, and we couldn't have that. As far as, I've got her in Salvation gear, largely because I have more Ancients in Salvation gear than I do in, what is this called? I guess I could put her in Immortal Warrior, or I could put her probably the Warlord is probably her best set. Adding the attack and the attack speed is probably the best thing to do there. But I went for a little extra healing effect, and mainly because I only have 2 of these Warlord breastplates, and that neither of them is really all that great for healing. So they've got attack bonus and attack speed, but you can see that they're more damage dealing stats. And I do have a lot of these Salvation gears that I just am not using. So the Invigoration set helped, but I've done this in the past without her being in one, so it's by no means a requirement. You do want to shoot for, I'd say, shoot for 350 to 400 speed. I think I have her at about 17K attack. That's always been fine for me. I've never felt a need to stack more than that. Shoot for 100 healing effect. A little bit more is not bad, but you do start to get diminishing returns past that point. So, yeah, I think that's it, guys. I hope this was helpful to you. I certainly have a lot of fun kind of challenging myself to do these kinds of videos where we're trying to use some more unorthodox setups to clear content because, I would love for there to be some more content in the game right now. But right now, I think I have cleared everything pretty much. The only thing that I haven't done is get triple S in all of the Immortal Codexes. So, that's something that I'm working on. I'm working on Arena as well. But I do have fun doing these kinds of videos. So with that said, if you liked what I did here, please like and subscribe. I'll be putting out more content moving forward. If you have any requests, if you've got something that's particularly challenging, or you feel like you're missing the key champion to be able to clear something, and you want to comment and challenge me to see if I can do it with my account, I would love that. That would be a lot of fun, and I'd be happy to do it. So in any case, I've been Blunt Guts. I appreciate you guys watching. I hope you all have a great day. I will see you next time.